Greetings, guys. In today's video, I am discussing the process of spiritual fasting. So I talk about this subject quite often because it has been so beneficial for me in my spiritual walk. It has helped me gain clarity, strength, motivation, drive, and just a holistic feeling of connection with the spiritual realm. Likewise, I've heard so many other people say that it serves in the same way for them. But in this video, I'm going to dig into the process rather than the benefits of it. I've actually done a previous video about fasting in African spirituality, whereby I outline all of the different benefits and why it's done and the purpose and things of that nature. So definitely check that out if you want to know more about those aspects of spiritual fasting. Today is actually a special request video in relation to how to conduct a fast and, it be the most beneficial process for you. So I'm definitely going to integrate a lot of my own personal techniques and also some general knowledge and guidance and advice about fasting as a whole. So let's dig into it. The first thing is we are talking about spiritual fasting. We are not talking about other forms of fast whereby you're focused on the physical benefits or something else for whatever reason. Spiritual fasting is about connecting deeply with spirit. So there are certain things that you are going to do during a spiritual fast that you may not do during a regular fast or a non-spiritual fast and vice versa. So do keep those dynamics in mind because I am specifically referring to when we fast for spiritual purposes, connectivity, clarity, and things as I mentioned earlier. So one of the first things that you want to do when you start the fasting process is to set clear intentions. Know why you are doing it. So it could just be for general purposes, for connectivity. You heard about it and you just kind of want to experience the benefits of it, especially if it's your first time. However, it could be something more concrete if you're trying to overcome a blockage, if you're trying to get information or clarity, trying to make a decision about something. Any of those types of things are pretty much great reasons to do a spiritual fast. Most often, I'll set my intentions for fasting related to something that I'm either going through at that time, or it could be based on an astrological phase that I know is beneficial for that time of fasting. For instance, for me, I love to fast during Jupiter retrograde periods because Jupiter is that planet that oversees our spirituality. It focuses on the meaning of things and the philosophical aspects of life. And I just know that that's a great time to fast. Other times I fast for cleansing. I just want to detox my mind, body, soul, and spirit and kind of get a reset going. Sometimes it may be for healing for myself or for someone else. There are so many reasons that I have fasted and I continue to fast throughout my life. So you should do the same whenever you sit down to fast, is to set a clear goal for the process. Usually I recommend writing down your goal in a journal or something like that, or even speaking it out loud. Personally, I actually pray right before I start my fast and kind of proclaim a fast, if you will, to go back to some of the Christian terminology for this process of basically stating your intentions. And you can say them, you can write them, as I said before, you can even record them, however you want to journal that. I like the process of actually setting intentions and putting them down in a concrete way, because in doing so, that's going to help me when I go backwards to see the effectiveness of the fasting process. And usually that happens maybe after 3 to 6 months, even so a year, just depending on what the fast was about. But I just tend to go back and reflect on my journal on a periodic basis anyway. Another very important thing that you want to do is to determine the type of fasting that you're doing. I recommend water fasting for anyone who has not done it before. So what I mean by water fasting is that you are only consuming water during your period or your duration of the fast. Now, some people choose to fast on juice or teas or other liquids. Some people choose a completely dry fast where they consume no food, no water, no liquids, nothing. And other people may choose a lighter fast whereby they're consuming only fruits and vegetables raw in many instances, things like that. So it's really up to you. But to be honest with you, a pure spiritual fast is usually done with water only or completely dry, as I mentioned earlier. However, if you do have a medical or health condition or something like that where it's better for you to consume something during that period, then definitely intake whatever you need for the process, because you do not want to harm yourself in any way. And I also suggest that you definitely seek out medical advice beforehand if you are dealing with some kind of medical condition, because that can help you avoid any contraindications or challenges or conflicts or what have you in relation to your health. Another part of this is the duration and the intervals of your fast. So you can choose to do an intermittent fast whereby you're only going to exclude foods, juices, waters, etc. during a certain period of the day. So usually we're talking about maybe you fast for about 20 hours and then you only eat for 4 hours within that 24-hour period. And maybe you're going to do this for 3 to 4 days or 3 to 5 days, something like that. That is much better for someone who does need to eat if they're taking some type of medication or health condition, as I said before. Or it could be that you're going to go throughout and fast, right? Whereby you're not going to take a break. So it could be 24 hours where you're going to go without eating. It could be 48, 72, or longer, much, much longer. Some people go 30, 40 days, and even beyond that is completely up to you. But I will say, if you do plan to embark on a prolonged fast, I suggest that you definitely plan that out with your work schedule, with your daily routines, your school schedule, whatever it may be, whatever you're dealing with in your day-to-day life. You need to make sure that you have the time and the capacity to truly embark on this fasting process, because it can be daunting, especially if it's your first time and if you don't eat a pretty healthy diet on a regular basis. If your eating habits are poor, it is going to be very, very stressful and draining on your body. Now, in terms of preparing for the fast, you do want to gradually decrease your intake of foods, and definitely certain types of food, until the day that you plan to fast. Again, if you do not eat well on a consistent basis, and also if you tend to consume a lot of meat or protein, because this is going to help your body do a little bit of cleansing and preparation so that you don't get so hungry throughout the process or feeling drained or something like that. So I definitely encourage you guys to go ahead and plan that part out. 1 to 2 weeks, maybe. It depends on your dietary intake. Only you know this, but slow it down. So maybe get to a space where you're only consuming fruits and vegetables before you go into a full-blown water or juice fast. If you plan on going into a full-blown water fast, I would say get yourself down to where you're only consuming juices prior to the fast, because it can be grueling and daunting just depending on your particular situation. Throughout the process, though, you always want to stay very much so hydrated. Water is your friend. It is your confidant. It is your healer, your purifier. You want to hydrate yourself prior to your fasting phase. And if you are not planning on doing a completely dry fast, if you are going to intake liquids, you want to intake a lot of water throughout the fasting process, because your body is going to be cleansing and shedding so many different toxins and things of that nature. And you want to definitely help that process out by flushing your system with water on a continuous basis throughout the fasting period. As far as spiritual preparation, I personally love to pray and ask my spirits for help before I do a prolonged fast. Like the 24-hour fast is not a big deal for me because I do it on such a frequent basis. But on a prolonged fast, if I know it's going to be grueling, I have work to do, or it's going to be pressure, and even so, the things that I don't know about, because anything could happen throughout the process of a fast, I always pray and ask for my Ori or Olodumare to help me out to get through this particular process. And, I say, hey, I plan on doing a 30-day fast, for instance, and I need help. I need strength in this area, empower me, etc. So I do encourage you to do that as well if you need to help. That's part of the preparation. Also, when you begin the fasting process, for me, I absolutely say, talking to my spirits, I tell them I am about to do a fast for 30 days, for instance. And this fast is to bring me cleansing, for instance, or whatever the purpose of the fast is, or healing for this particular person who I am fasting for. So I do that. I proclaim a fast, as I said earlier, and I usually do it right before I embark on that fasting process. So at the start of the fast, that's when I normally do it. But you don't have to, you can say it out loud. You can say it in your mind. You don't have to say it at all, right? Because at the end of the day, your intentionality is there and your spirits will know that. That's just something that I do. I personally like to pray out loud. I don't know why I like to vocalize my prayers. Sometimes I'll pray silently for sure if there's no other choice and it doesn't make sense to vocalize my prayers, but I tend to do it that way. Now, let's get to the logistics of the fast itself. It's very important for you to choose a space where you're going to be as distraction free as possible. So during the fasting period, you want to be engaging in things that are spiritually based. So no, going out just hanging out at the mall or going to the store if you don't need to. Like if you have to go out to get things, that's perfectly fine, but not just, window shopping or something like that, hanging out at the mall if that's something that you do, or, going out to the club or hanging out with friends, etc., etc. You want to be in a space where you have the most quiet environment possible, where you can meditate, where you can think, reflect, etc. You do not want to be in a space where it's going to be a lot of noise and confusion if you can help it. Now, I know some people have no other choice, and that's perfectly fine. You do what you do. Again, pray. Ask your spiritual team to help you if that is the circumstance, because they absolutely will give you that extra strength and power if you don't have a choice. But for the most part, if you do plan on fasting, a prolonged fast that is, so anything beyond 3 days, when I say prolonged fast, let me clarify that here. I'm referring to anything that is 3 days or more. If you plan on doing a prolonged fast, I definitely suggest that you spend that first 5 to 7 days, even longer if you can, in the most quiet, environment that you can, where you don't have a lot of distractions, where you don't have a lot of noise, people, around you, tempting you, things like that. Now, later on in the fast, especially if you have to go back to work or integrate back into society in whatever way, for whatever reason, then it'll be much easier once you've gotten your body used to that process. But still, try to avoid things that are going to tempt you, for sure, distract you. I absolutely recommend shutting down the social media, the television, unless you are consuming content related to spirituality, but not just regular movies or television shows or YouTube videos. If it's something that is feeding you spiritually, that's fine, because that spiritual food is going to be so important during the fasting process itself, to maintain your hunger and things like that, so you don't get too hungry, etc. Otherwise, I recommend that you definitely do things that are spiritual. So read spiritually related texts, maybe like the Holy Vodou if you're into African spirituality, the Bible if you're into Hoodoo or other practices that are connected to Christianity, the Quran if that's your thing. Holy books and texts are absolutely great during this time, but likewise are other spiritual books. So I do a combination of both. I love to read spiritually based text that outlines different moral codes, values, and things like that. But then I also like to read spiritually based text that can give me more insight into whatever I'm interested in at that particular moment. So it could even be somebody else's story or book or what have you about somebody else's spiritual journey. I personally prefer just to read and to stay away from television because you don't know what's going to pop up, right? And unless you have like a streaming service that you pay for. Even so, I have Netflix, but if I'm going to go on Netflix to find a movie, I'm still going to be distracted by all of the other list of movies potentially that are out there. So I recommend staying away from that if it's distractive, because you start watching things, especially if people are eating it, if it's hard for you, that can be very, very difficult. Otherwise, you definitely want to spend as much time as you can in prayer and meditation, whatever that looks like for you. You want to spend time journaling if you can. So that could be writing in a journal. That could also be like doing videos or audio content whereby you're reflecting. And when I say content, I'm not saying something to put on social media. I'm saying something for yourself that you can reflect back on. Whatever medium you choose for that process is completely up to you. Also, you can spend some time in divination practices. So if you read tarot cards, if you work with a pendulum, a divining board, even if you like into Ifa, for instance, and you're studying, how to do divination through that process. There's so many different things that you can do, but the goal is to do things that are spiritually aligned, whereby you're feeding your spirit during that time and you're starving the flesh. That's the goal of a spiritual fast. Now, guys, keep in mind that spiritual fasting is not without challenges. Anytime we try to do anything in life to better ourselves, we are going to experience challenges. That's the time most often when the enemy, so to speak, or evil forces, whatever you want to call it, will come in and test you the most. So you also need to have a plan of action for dealing with any challenges that may come your way during this time frame. Number one is hunger. That's just part of the process. We are humans. We are meant to eat, right? We aren't meant to eat all of the horrible things that we do eat in many instances, but we are meant to eat. So hunger is a natural part of the process. With that being said, there are things that you can do to stave off hunger. Number one, as I said, stay engaged in spiritually based practices, because that will feed your spirit. The more full your spirit is, the less you're focused on your physical body and the less you need food. Even, integrating music into there, right? Some very inspirational, spiritually based, uplifting music can help you as well. One of the things I like to do is actually take vitamin C, powdered vitamin C. I don't really like to swallow pills when I'm fasting, but sometimes I will take some powdered vitamin C and put it in my water and drink it. For some reason, that helps me to not be hungry. It also cleanses me, because vitamin C can help you with your digestive tract. And you want to be, as I said before, clearing that digestive tract as much as possible for a number of reasons. The more you clear it, it will help you to feel less hungry. And I know that sounds crazy, but it just does, because I guess you're pulling out all of those toxins. You're also pulling out the leftover residual foods that your body is used to. So you're removing that from the process. I also encourage you to do enemas or hydrotherapy. So hydrotherapy is actually you're going to go somewhere and you're going to allow someone to flush your colon with water through a machine. And there's so many different ways that this can be done. Or you can do a self-administered enema. This is important for sweeping that colon of toxins, because your body is going to be detoxing. And when your body is heavily detoxing and those toxins are just sitting in your gut, you're going to deal with so many negative thoughts. Like every negative thing that happened to you in life is going to come back to your memory at that time. I used to suffer from that so badly when I first started the fasting process, and I didn't understand what was going on. So I was just consuming water and I wasn't flushing all of those toxins out in a more efficient way, because at that time my dietary habits were just that. It was a diet, right? Because diet is actually what we eat to die. I was not consuming a liberty, and that's what you consume to live. Okay. So at that particular stage in my journey, um, I would experience so much negativity. So I learned over the years to make sure that I had a way of flushing out those toxins in an efficient way. And whenever I did that, oh, I would feel so much lighter and so much better. And also, my liberty has definitely been strengthened over the years. So I don't even deal with the negativity as much. But the vitamin C helps in that as well because both of those things cleanse. Or if you are doing like a liquid fasting, it's not just water, you can absolutely take herbal remedies that can cleanse you out really well, that can flush out your system, things like senna or alolax, stuff like that, that is going to push those things out and force them out of your system so they're not just sitting there. Because when those toxins sit there in your gut, right? That's your second mind, right? So, like when we say we have a gut feeling, that's our intuition. It sits in that region of our body. So, if you got toxins sitting in there, you're going to have toxic thoughts right here as well. So, do make sure that you are cleansing yourself. It's a very important part of the fast is staying the course holistically. Another thing that you can do, especially when you tend to get bored or it just feels overwhelming, especially if you're staying in one space all the time, get out in nature as much as possible during the fasting process. It may be difficult during those times when you're weak because you probably will get weak around maybe the third or fourth day on a prolonged fast. Some people even get weak within 24 hours. I remember years ago helping somebody through a fasting process, and like within 12 hours they stopped the fast because it's like they just could not take it and they were so weak and so hungry and fatigued, etc. But if you do get to those spaces, try your best to sleep as much as possible because that's going to happen too. When you first start fasting, you will probably sleep quite a bit. Allow your body to rest. This is one of the main reasons too. I always recommend starting the fasting process when you don't have anything to do. So if you're going to do a 3-day fast or even a prolonged fast, maybe take a 3-day weekend if you have it, or maybe one of those holiday periods where you can start during that time, right? And spend 3 to 4 days just by yourself and allowing your body to get adjusted to the process. Around the 7th or 8th day, you'll probably start to feel re-energized again, depending on again your state of health and where your body is and things like that. But definitely change environments if you need to get out in nature. That's the best way actually to do a fast. If you can just be out in nature and enjoy yourself, making sure that you're connecting with Mother Earth at the beach, something like that, that is absolutely beautiful during a fasting period. So, as you go along the fast, you're going to engage in all the activities that I just mentioned. Try your best to stay spiritually focused, distraction free, doing what you need to do whenever you're handling those challenges. Now, once it's time to come out of the fast, you want to go ahead and close it up with a prayer, thanking your spiritual team, the forces for keeping you through the process. And I say do this even if you don't complete the amount of time that you set out to do. So maybe you set out to do a 3-day fast, but you only made it through 24 hours. Still, close that fasting process right with a prayer, meditation, and just giving thanks and gratitude to the spiritual forces who guided you and helped you throughout that entire process. After that, when you come back to the space where you're about to reintroduce food into your system, be very careful. Do this slowly. The same way you eased your way into the fast, you want to ease your way out of the fast, especially if it's been a long time, 3 or more days that your body has not had food. Take your time. So start eating light. try fresh fruits and vegetables. Fruits more so because that's going to keep that colon flush, and also things that are soft if you can. So fruits like bananas or even so oranges. Apples are great to get your colon moving. However, it's not the best fruit when you have not eaten for a long time because of it's kind of rough and it can be hard on your digestive tract. So you want to eat something that is light, that is going to just gently wake your system up little by little. And so depending on how long you've been fasting, you want to take 3 to 7 days to reintroduce foods back into your system. You can consume soups, really light soups with, cooked vegetables. But once the vegetables are soft and things like that, again, it's okay to consume those because they're not going to be difficult or harsh on your digestive tract. Even so, like especially if you are fasting to help you clean up your liver tea, you don't want to introduce like poor dietary habits back into your daily regimen anyway. But, that's up to you and the purpose, the reason you're fasting and what you're dealing with health wise. But try your best to consume a healthier diet holistically, because when you do that, it's much easier to go in and out of a fast if you just naturally consume whole foods, good, healthy, clean foods, and things like that. Okay. Now, once you got back into the groove of eating and so forth and so on, you definitely want to maintain that spiritual connectivity. You want to reflect even so on the fasting process. So maybe after you consume your first meal, if you have time, go back and, take some notes and maybe jot down some notes for the first 3 to 5 days after that fasting cycle to see how you're feeling. Check in with yourself to see what's going on with you spiritually, mentally, emotionally, even so physically. And that can help inform your process for the future whenever you decide to embark on future fasts or things like that. One of the things I do want to warn you about, though, is never go into a fast without first preparing, going through those steps, as I said before, setting your intention, clearing your body out, making sure that, the process, your schedule, things like that are in place so that you can actually complete the process. It can be successful and beneficial to you overall. Another thing is to not set unrealistic goals or expectations for yourself during the fasting process. So if you've never fasted before, don't go all in and say, I'm going to do a 30-day fast, and you're not at that point mentally, physically, or emotionally, or spiritually even. So some people can, so I'm not telling you not to do it at all, but you have to assess yourself to understand where you are, and don't jump on something just because somebody else did it. You watch somebody's video who said they fasted and they did it for this long and so forth and so on. Understand that that person's experience is not your experience. Even if that was their first time fasting and they went all out, that's what their spirit allowed them to do. But it may not be your reality. So temper your expectations, temper your goals and your objectives during the fast with your reality. Okay. Also, don't get so caught up on the physical benefits of the fast, because there are physical benefits of fasting regardless of the reason why you're doing it, whether it's purely physical or it's purely spiritual. You will experience so many beautiful physical benefits. But if the goal is for spirituality, you want to set your sights on that and stay focused on your spiritual needs and desires during the fasting period. Always keep in mind, guys, that fasting is a journey. It is a process, and it is your journey more so. It doesn't belong to someone else. No matter if you're married, you have children, mother, father, whoever, right? It's your journey that you should take on your own. If you fasted before or you're about to embark on a fast, definitely leave comments below telling us some of your experiences and also some tips, some tricks, some advice that you have during the fasting process that has worked for you. Don't forget to check me out on the Astani 44 website, guys, where I offer so many different things. So if you need spiritual coaching, you need guidance more so in this area on spiritual fasting, or your other spiritual needs, definitely reach out to me. I have 30 and 60-minute sessions available. Likewise, we have divination services and so many other things on the Asani 44 website for you to check out to meet so many of your spiritual needs. With that being said, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close up here. Ashe. Please have a very blessed and beautiful day and beyond.